Well, this morning had perhaps my greatest insight, realization, revelation of the spiritual odyssey and, dare I say, my life. It's all led up to this. The last 6 years of chronic pain, my entire life. It's all happening exactly as it's meant to. I had a little background. Woke up today to do my Joe Dispenza meditation from You Are the Placebo. Great book. And it felt different. The meditation and the whole idea behind the book and all of Joe Dispenza's work is if we are constantly doing the same thing that we've always done, waking up, thinking the same thoughts, forging the same identity, doing the same habits, then we're living in the past and thus the future, the predictable future, because what we know of the past, what we're so comfortable with, is going to only create the same future. What we have to do is exist in the unknown. And the more that we exist in the unknown, the more possibility there is to actually create the life we want to live and know we can live. And so I woke up today, and usually for the last 6 years, being in back pain, I usually wake up and it's like, how's my back today? I go up to the sink, brush my teeth, it's testing it out a little bit. Today, I'm like, now that I know there's nothing structurally wrong with me, that it's an emotional situation, now that I know that it is mind body syndrome, TMS, I know that it's only a matter of time with reprogramming my brain until the pain finally lets up. But that's not necessarily the point. The point is truly understanding myself. And today that happened deeply. So I woke up before the big insight. I'm like, I'm living in the unknown today. Like, I'm healed today. I'm not going to live in the past and wonder what's going to happen, wonder how I feel. Like, it doesn't matter how I feel. I'm healed today. That is my thought. That is my reality. So that's the unknown because I'm not comfortable with that. Living the unknown, putting myself there. So we're off to a good start. And do the meditation, and it's going the best. It's probably the best it's gone so far. I've done about probably 8 of the hour-long one, kind of easing my way into it, going section by section. But now I'm just doing the full meditation, hour-long. It's transformative. You can find it on Spotify under Joe Dispenza Meditations. It's called the You Are the Placebo meditation, but definitely read the book first. And it might even still sound pretty outlandish and maybe doesn't apply to you unless you are ready for this and you need it and you need to change. You need to change everything about your life. That is when you start to really accept and embrace the stuff that I'm doing right now. And it's led to the greatest period of change in my entire life of stepping into the future that I know I'm destined for. And just to kind of make that clear, the guy who pioneered the mind body syndrome was Dr. John Sarno. And I read his 3 books in the last month: Healing Back Pain, The Mind Body Prescription, and The Divided Mind. And he says, one of the unfortunate realities about working with a disorder like TMS is that most people will reject the idea until they are desperate for a solution. That's exactly what happened. I hit rock bottom about a month and a half ago, and there's nowhere else to hide, no more physical things that could possibly be causing this. I was desperate. Something had to change. And that's when I finally realized, with the help of my supernatural aid, this amazing woman who showed me that I would have to heal emotionally for my chronic physical pain to heal. And that has led me on this spiritual odyssey of intense introspection and so much profound meaning. And it's been as if crossing the threshold from my past into the future that I want to make, that I want to create. Because I'm sick of living in this state of chronic pain. And as I'm unearthing the reasons for it, I'm just discovering so much about my personality and the person I was as a kid who I really need to understand more. So that feeds into today's revelation. So meditation's going great. Brought that up because, like I was saying, if you're interested in this stuff, I suggest the books first. You Are the Placebo, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and now I'm reading Becoming Supernatural, also Joe Dispenza, and doing his meditations. It takes time and effort, and you got to want to change everything. But goddamn, is it worth it? So, in the meditation, you bring to the table 2 beliefs that you want to change about yourself. One for me is I'm going to be in pain forever. I have chronic back pain. This is my life now. And that's the thing I want to change. The new belief is that I'm out of pain, more physically fit than I've ever been, happier than I've ever been. My body feels just perfect. Really driving that home. The second one is that the limiting belief is that I cannot make what I love my career. I cannot make as much money as I want, do whatever I want by writing, by creating, by sharing, by learning, by teaching, by exploring, just doing the things I love and that fill me up so much. Just telling stories, sharing experiences, sharing life lessons, and just learning. And since graduating from college, I've wondered, like, how do I make this passion that burns so brightly in me? It can't just be this side thing forever. Like, I will do the jobs I need to do. I will teach English in Japan. I'll work at a restaurant, a clothing store, whatever, and do the stuff on the side for as long as I need, my podcast and such. But how do I make this everything? I want it so badly, and I'm not going to settle on the philosophy that some people have that says keep your passions as hobbies or as side projects. Make your career what you can make a lot of money with or what you're good at. Fuck that. If something burns brightly in you, you owe it to yourself to give it everything because that will give your life meaning. And that meaning is something that the money, the things that we chase, cannot give. So that being said, I'm doing the second part of the meditation, the second belief. You know, I can make this my life. I can make what I love so much my everything. I can live the life that I want to live truly. And I'm not going to hold back. And it just hit me. Boom. Just started crying in the meditation. Had the realization that feels like the crux of all. It's a big statement, but the crux of my back pain for the last 6 years. It's held me back for so long. And it's the fear of my own greatness. It's the fear of success. It's fearing that I can actually become what I know I could be. And a lot of that comes from the shame and the guilt of childhood and dimming what felt like my light because I didn't want to make other people insecure or feel bad, because I didn't want to outshine people, because I wanted to fit in and blend in and do what others were doing. So the body, the brain, created physical pain in my body to hold me back because I, deep down in my unconscious, believed that I was not worthy of the life that I truly wished to live. And that's what mind body syndrome is. The brain creates a physical syndrome, physical pain, real physical pain to distract us from the true emotion that lives within the well of our unconscious. Morning, Joe. And my God, does it make so much sense? One of the first insights I had into this was once you realize you have TMS, which is the cause for most chronic pain, and on many of the other kind of perplexing ailments which afflict us today, the emotion that you feel regarding the pain or the symptom is just a distraction from the true emotion underneath. And they're the same emotion most of the time. So when I broke down about a month and a half ago, I was in San Francisco. I was working with a Japanese film crew making a documentary on specialty coffee. And the situation just kind of from a friend of a friend, I got the opportunity to do this, and it felt like the first step of like, wow, this is actually something I want to do for my career, and I'm doing it. And of course, my back flared up twice on that trip because I didn't feel worthy of doing something that cool. For the first time, I felt like I was taking a step and going the path that I want my career to go in. And the brain is like, you feel shame, you feel guilt, you feel unworthy of this. So here's the physical distraction to make you believe that you can't move forward, that you can't do it, that you don't deserve it. And I was crying on the phone to one of my best friends, Greg, in San Francisco, just feeling utterly destroyed. And this was my rock bottom. Then I came back to Japan and flared up again. And that whole month was rock bottom, having 4 flare ups in 1 month. But I'll never forget this trip. My God, it's just unbelievable how everything is aligning. How this pain has been the greatest gift I could ever receive. I was telling Greg, I feel ashamed that I'm 28 and I can't overcome this unexplainable back pain. I kept saying, I feel ashamed. Like I don't want to be like dating right now because it's like hard to tell people I have back pain and it's like I'm young and healthy, but it's like it's embarrassing to say I have back pain, to say I can't do these things because of back pain. I feel ashamed, embarrassed of it. Those emotions have been there since I was a kid, and the back pain was making me realize it, right? So if I'm angry at the pain, if I'm like, fuck this, like, what is going on? I'm just mad. I've been angry for a long time. And that anger that I feel towards the pain is just a distraction from the actual anger inside of me. Or I feel sadness, like just depressed that I'm going to be in this state forever. The sadness has been there forever. And then you start digging into it. What am I sad about? What am I feeling anxiety about? Fear. But the shame, this was the big realization. So that was kind of the first star realizing that, wow. And it started with about a week ago. My stepmom, Eileen, sent me a text with a picture from one of my recent newsletters. It's about 2 months ago, so before, actually, this might have been, I wrote this, yeah, from San Francisco. I think the article was called, I'm Proud to Let Life Break Me. And in it, she sent the text of, every time I try to take a step forward, it seems like my back flares up. And she's like, that really stood out to me. Maybe you should bring it up with your therapist. I didn't really know what to make of it at that time. I thought, okay, maybe it's the fear. It's just the fear of disappointing people, the fear of judgment, because that is something that I've definitely dealt with since being a kid as well. Judgment and disappointing others and letting people down. So I'm like, okay, that means whenever I try something new, I fear letting people down or the judgment. But what I now understand, and what's just unbelievable about this, is that she sent me that, and just now realizing when I try to take a step forward, my back flares up because I don't feel I'm worthy of taking a step forward. I feel shame that what did I do to deserve this? It's just crazy. So these are different stars that are aligning to create this constellation of this revelation. My stepmom texted me realizing that I was feeling shame, ashamed, talking to Greg. And then yesterday, been really into listening to this guy on YouTube, Jim Prusak, Pain PT, which is all about overcoming TMS, which is the mind body syndrome. And he's phenomenal. Look him up. Jim Prusak, the Pain PT. He's great. Listen to him every day, just really trying to inundate myself with this information that I'm fine. My body's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just emotional pain and rewiring my brain through constant repetition and practice. And kind of just jump around, listen to random videos of his. And two come up on shame yesterday. And it's like the emotion that holds us back, but many people don't realize it or something. Or is this emotion causing your pain and you don't realize it? Something like that. And to listen to it, I'm like, makes sense. Like all the stuff about shame. I don't really know if I feel shame for anything. I feel more like fear, anger, but like I wasn't sure if shame was that integral for me. But still listened, and it kind of sunk into my subconscious. And then driving this all home is I'm reading right now The Great Pain Deception by Stephen Ray Ozanich. And this book has been a catalyst in my healing. So insane. But where Dr. John Sarna's books, who's the kind of the pioneer in all of this, give you the facts that give you this is what's happening. This is the tens of thousands of people who have healed. This is why your body is not broken. This is how to overcome it. He lays it out pretty plainly. Stephen Ozanich, it's much more humanistic. Dr. John Sarna's books, he doesn't explain like his own experience really. It's because he's the doctor and it's just all the patients that he's seen and the data that he's gathered. This guy went through absolute hell. His whole world shattered. His body completely broke down. Back pain and just so many symptoms from so much stress in his life and so much going wrong. And he completely healed 100% through understanding the mind body syndrome, and that it all came from childhood stuff, from the stressors in his life, and from his personality traits, which are the three main rivers which feed into the mind body syndrome. That is childhood traumas and everyday stressors and personality traits. So I read this section like 2 days ago, and it, it didn't resonate as deeply as it did today. But it's all about my revelation, realizing that I fear my own greatness. I fear success. And that is why I've been holding myself down unconsciously with this pain for 6 years, ever since graduating college, which is when you start creating your life, really. And the pain brain often uses a physical distraction, a trigger. And that is what we, for obvious reasons, believe caused the pain. Like I had my first like real back flare up 6 years ago. And I thought that's what caused everything. I had a herniated disc, slip disc or whatever, which actually doesn't mean anything. And it was just not thinking on that time. I was just stressed with figuring out my path in life. I didn't truly realize, who I wanted to be yet. A writer, a creator, a traveler, an explorer, a thinker. And I was trying different things, different jobs that I knew were not me, but I was doing it anyway. And that's the recipe for TMS, for your body delivering this pain. Because what it is it's just your brain creating a physical distraction from something inside of you that is clearly out of whack. And a lot of it has to do with unconscious. And I'm going to kind of just dive into what goes on in the unconscious. And a lot of this stuff comes from psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, early 1900s. They really just revolutionized psychotherapy, psychology, and this entire field. And I'm becoming incredibly fascinated with this stuff as it applies to me and seeing how I could actually manipulate and understand and change myself through understanding what's going on in my unconscious, looking at my dreams, looking at just this kind of stuff today. And a necessary point to make that's interesting is that you don't need to solve anything to create this great change. There's no answer that I need to finally crack, even though it feels like I came to an answer today. It's all just exploration and just knowing what is actually taking place within us creates healing. It's not like I have to find the answer to the riddle and that's when I'll heal. Now that I know what's going on, it's a lifetime of discovery and exploration I have in front of me. And that's just exciting. It's not something like there's not a hourglass that's been flipped and it's like you have to solve this stuff or you'll never heal. It's like confidently flow with the information, with the things that you're learning. And I keep telling myself, I'm like, there's no timeline to heal now. It's like I know it's going to happen eventually. It's only a matter of time, but every day I'm learning stuff about myself. I'm going deep, understanding myself in much deeper way. That is the reward of this. There's absolutely no downside. And I'm just so grateful to be doing this at 28 when it takes people 50, 60 years to start finding the courage to really dive deep and understand themselves and their traumas and their pain, if they ever do it at all. And I cannot implore you enough to really take this journey and look at yourself and your childhood and asking these kind of deeper questions about who you are, who you want to be. So, let's see here. So one of the main psychologists in all of this was Carl Rogers, and he created a more like humanistic psychology. I think it was called just like talk therapy, pretty much, which is just pretty much unloading, and that is catharsis and healing in itself. Like you don't need to find the answer, but it's just talking about this stuff. And he was really big in finding your authentic self. Like the conflict that's created inside of us is because we're living a life that isn't ours. And quote from the book, humanistic psychology therefore asserts that individuals suffer from anxiety and depression because they are living a life that is not consistent with their true selves. People in psychic conflict are living their lives as others want them to, and not as they themselves wish. The problem for most of us, Rogers argued, is that we are often forced to choose between gaining the acceptance and approval of others or being ourselves. And what's interesting is that inner unconscious is not just the darkness, the shadow, the things we want to repress. It's who we could truly be if we embraced who we truly are. Think about that. Deep non-conscious is not just the shadow, the darkness. It's who we could truly be if we embraced who we truly are. And healing comes from letting that out of us. And my revelation today, and what I hope this makes you ask yourself, is, are you afraid of who you truly are and who you could truly be? Are you afraid of your own greatness? Do you not feel worthy of what you know and what you want to be? Do you feel like you'd be judged if you let that out of you? What we could call the inner gold. And why? I know for me, a big part of all the shame and the guilt growing up, like I was saying, I didn't want to overshadow people, like my brother, for example. I wanted to kind of blend in, not cause any more problems. I didn't want to be who I truly knew I could be. And I rather dimmed my light because of that. And it's just been a snowball effect of, I've known since I graduated that I want to be a writer and a traveler and a creator. And I put this back pain on myself to limit myself. 2 months ago, I was having the thought, maybe I'm just not made for this. Maybe I can't live this life. And if I have to, be in one place and just be constantly working on my back, or just like in chronic pain, then maybe that's what I have to accept. Maybe the things that I deeply want is not what I deserve. And I kind of accepted that that is my path too. Or maybe that's my path too. And that created the inner conflict. That's the inner conflict that has been brewing inside of me for years. And I felt ashamed of what I truly wanted. I felt ashamed for the gifts and the privileges that I randomly got in life. Being from a well known family and, you know, being entertainers, and I just like embarrassed me as a kid. I knew I didn't want to be in that field of entertainment. And I was looking for something different, and maybe finding that thing, which I found in writing and creating. I didn't feel worthy or deserving of success and getting it in my own way and being who I am. And in this past month, I began to understand, if you just look at my past videos, who I am and what I actually want in such a more profound way. It's unreal. And I completely have dispelled that notion from a few months ago that maybe this is not the life for me. Realizing this today, it's exactly the life for me. It's what I have to do to heal. I have to chase that life that I know I'm destined for. And so from the book, it reads, Carl Jung came to understand that the unconscious mind was a much greater complex of thoughts, ideas, and emotions than Freud had earlier characterized. He expanded the unconscious and made it a more inclusionary and palatable part of self. He relabeled Freud's voids as the shadow, our undeveloped inferior self, which he contended contained not only unwanted immoral traits, but also great talents, good characteristics, and a wealth of knowledge, our inner gold, repressed along with the bad. We think we don't have these great qualities. We wonder, what do I truly want in life? What am I good at? What do I love? And we think that we have to go out and find it. We think that maybe we just don't have it, or that there's this deep well of, I mean, we all know that there's a well of negative darkness inside of us. Not even negative, there's just darkness inside of us. We're human beings, and that's what makes us complete humans. Healing comes from embracing that, what Jung called the shadow, integrating it into our complete personality. And what I'm learning here is that our inner gold resides in that shadow as well. In that shame, being a kid, of not wanting to make a scene, of being embarrassed, not wanting to shine, of feeling like I didn't deserve the privileges of just what I got in life, being, born into a loving family and successful. And I've questioned for years, like, what do I do with this privilege? Why me? I don't deserve it. And I've unconsciously created pain to bring me down, instead of shining as brightly as I possibly can, realizing that that does better for everybody than dimming our light does. Book reads, the Jungian shadow is where emotional pain lives, and where emotional pain lives, physical pain is also a tenant. The shadow is the alter ego, that part of self that has been repressed by the ego in order for relationships to meander and exist. The shadow contains both darkness and light, both the problems and the answers to relieving pain and suffering. Jung believed that the shadow self contained undeveloped, unexpressed potentials that were complementary to the ego, and that tapping into that potential could make the individual whole again. Healing is contingent upon opening lines of communication with the shadow self. Understanding the darker side of self is the king in healing. People attempt to improve their lives by what they see, but what they cannot see, what they fear to see, underlies most of their psychophysiological needs and provides motivation. Carl Jung says, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. So I ask you, what inner gold are you hiding in your shadow? What are you afraid to embrace? What, like me, might you be afraid of? Are you afraid of getting the success that you know you want and deserve? Because who would that make you? Better than other people? Better than maybe your family or your friends? When I say better, I mean, you know, more successful in quotes. We don't want to outshine people. It's not just me. I'm sure you feel the same way. This is human nature. We want to, well, we naturally just bring ourselves down. We play small because of fear of failure, but also fear of success. We fear true success. We think we want it on the surface, but we fear it. And that's really interesting. It's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us, says Marianne Williamson. She says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? But actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that others will feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. Obviously, she's religious, but still hits hard. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And that is in A Return to Love. She says that. This is it. This feels like the true cog that has been holding me back. Fear of my own success, fear of my own light, that I actually can do the things that deep in my unconscious I want. I think, one of the big themes of my writing and stuff is like, do I need the success? Do I need the money? Do I even want it? I'm happy with a studio apartment with very few things, and I just want to travel and be a nomad. And because I actually fear success and growth and expansion, because those things aren't necessarily bad. Money is not bad. It's just when people get it despite knowing why they want it, when they get it just to fill a void, that's when it becomes rather meaningless. And then just all it becomes is the acquisition of more just to prove that they're worthy of that success, they're worthy of love. When it's something we define first, and that's when what we want, what we need becomes attracted to us, the law of attraction. Our vibration brings in what we think we actually are deserving of. And money can be freedom. That's why I want it. I want to live this extraordinary life, and I will not fear it anymore. I'm changing. I'm changing. I know you could do the same. I will not play small. I will not limit myself because I feel ashamed of these gifts I've been given, of this life that I want to live, of the talent, the ambition, the passion and the excitement and the love of life. These things are not bad. We should not feel shame for them. And it starts with forgiveness. It starts with forgiveness. In the book, quote, as Debbie Ford describes in The Shadow Effect, the reason we engage in shadow work or try to pierce through our personas is to forgive ourselves for everything we hate about ourselves. It allows us to forgive ourselves for our quitting, our parents' divorce, our talent, our stealing, our obsessing, our fearing, our child dying, our failing, and our succeeding. Most of us just don't feel deserving of success, to be happy, or to feel good. As I mentioned earlier, part of the shadow's purpose is to hide our gold, our wealth of potential. Accepting the side of ourselves that we have hidden allows us to forgive ourselves for having what others don't have, for being happy where others aren't, for succeeding where others can't, for doing what others won't, freeing us from all that guilty pleasure and from mistakes that we have made and continue to hold ourselves accountable for. The recognition and acceptance of our darkness unites the divided self, making us whole again, and healing begins. My word. It's impossible for me to go back to believing this could ever be a structural problem in my body. It's so clear. I mean, I was just crying hard this morning in the meditation, and I was thinking, like a couple days ago or yesterday, I often hear people talk about, I should say, and I started weeping. I was just weeping. And I'm like, what does that mean to truly weep? To like just, I feel like I cry. I've been crying like every day in these meditations. And, I've cried a lot from the pain over the years, breaking down. It feels like there's always a little bit, I can't just like completely just weep. It's a fountain of release. And this morning I took one step closer. I was definitely Tears were falling. It felt great. I felt like a weight was lifted from this realization I was crying, from the shame that I felt, and the realization that I fear my own success. I took a walk. I'm like, I need to talk to somebody to tell them. And I also felt like I needed to cry more. I talked to my mom. And I cried on the phone a good amount. And it was healing for sure. To bring her in on this journey, tell her what's going on. She's helped me so much over the years. And even though there are things that I'm working through with the therapist that, involve her and family, obviously that is a large source of our emotion. This was important to share with her, and it felt great. Forgiveness. Forgiveness. Not holding on. I'm going to continue seeking and wondering and uncovering the anger maybe I felt I'm still holding on to, but forgiveness is the final step in this healing process. Forgiving ourselves, forgiving myself for being that kid and maybe feeling shameful or guilty of what I got, who I am. Forgiving myself for doing my best and just being so proud of who that kid was, who he's turned into. He was doing his best. And it's all happened exactly as it's meant to. So I hope this inspires you, makes you think about what inner gold you perhaps have not yet confronted. But it's there. You feel it. You feel it. It's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. That is the truth. Much, much love.